Hello, this is just a quick video for students who will be using MyOpenMath to take Math 072 or 073. At this point, it's the fall of 2025, but this video might still be useful for students in later terms. If I need to update it, I will. So the first thing you'll have to do is, if you are new to MyOpenMath, Google MyOpenMath and click here on Register as a new student. Fill out the information to create an account, and down here I will provide you, or your instructor, if it's not me, will provide you with a course ID and enrollment key, and then you click sign up like so. For those of you that are already on MyOpenMath, maybe you used it for Math 052, 053, log in as you did before, and on the home page over here on the left, click enroll in a new class, and then enter that course ID and enrollment key that I emailed to you, and click sign up, and you will be in. At that point on your home page, I'm not doing it now because I've already done it here. On your home page, you will see the course, either Math 072 or 073. Of course, you won't see most of these other ones, although you might have these ones there. But find Math 072 in this case. 073 is going to be pretty similar, so I'm just going to demo this on 072. And there is what your basic Math 072 course page should look like. There's a little practice here on how to enter your answers into MyOpenMath. If it's new to you, that might be useful. If you've already completed a course with it, you're probably okay on that. I would suggest, maybe let me just pause before I jump right into it. So for those of you that have used MyOpenMath for, say, Math 053, you're going to find lots of this very familiar, but a few things in the layout have been done a little bit differently. I also should give full credit to Pooja, who has put this together, and this is being piloted this fall 2025, for the first time. This is great because it's free, unlike the system we used to use, which required a $100 access code. So that's good news. But beware that in its first time being used, there's likely to be a few little bugs here and there you run into. So typos, which aren't a big deal. Every once in a while, a question, there's something funny in the code, and even though you enter the right answer, this has happened in the past. Even though you enter the right answer, it says you're wrong. Some little things like that could happen. It's been, they've done a lot of testing on it, but almost certainly there's going to be a few little things here and there. We'd really appreciate it if you shoot me an email if you run into any little mistakes. If anything funny happens on a test that costs you marks, then of course I will be looking at your work and answers and would adjust accordingly. If you entered the right answer and it said you're wrong, I will correct it and give you full marks, for example. Okay, so with that little disclaimer out of the way, the first thing here, you have prerequisite skills. This looks like a lot. It's not. Each of these only has like 3 or 4 or 5 questions. So not a bad idea to work through those just to sort of get your brain going again on what you already should know coming into this course. If you assessed into Math 072, this is in particular is going to be useful. You might want to go do some brush up on anything that doesn't feel very familiar or that you're not able to get the answers. And I believe that these questions, yeah, so there's some video lessons in here included that you can do to help you through those questions as well, if you're a little rusty on anything. So you saw how I opened that up. Sorry, I'm forgetting that some of you might be brand new to MyOpenMath. So each of these units here, you can expand by clicking on it, and then open the sections one at a time, start the quizzes. There may be videos right there for you to watch first. More often, there will be video help available. So if we, whoops, sorry about that. Let's go back here, close this up. And then as you go through the other units, open them up, and each unit in this case is actually just one single chapter. So once you open up the unit, you also have to open up the chapter, and then you're going to see these three things under there: textbooks and videos, homework, so that's like your practice, and then the quiz and the test. There's the Chapter R review unit, which you'll do first, which is pretty small. It just has one set of homework questions based on R2 and R3 sections in the textbook. I'm going to open up another one that's a little bit bigger. So here's the Unit 2, which is Chapter L in the textbook. Open that up, and let's look at these things quickly one at a time, because this is going to be sort of your format for each unit. So if we open up the textbook and lecture videos, you have a link to the chapter in the textbook, which you can click on, download to your computer if you want. That has explanation. If you're good at learning from a textbook, it has written explanations, examples, and then also practice questions with answers at the end of the chapter. Then you have each of these ones with this symbol here is a video lecture teaching the concepts that go with each section. So L1, L2, L3, L4, etc. are the sections in the textbook with those same names. And the idea here is that you would watch the lecture on L1, potentially read the chapter and look at the example questions if you feel that's useful. I think everyone's a little bit different in how they learn the best, whether it's from a book or from a video or different options. So there's a couple choices there for you. And then you would go to the homework and you would do the L1 questions in here. So if we open this up here, try some of those homework questions, you can see it says resume. That's because I already started this one. I was doing a little demonstration earlier and did a few questions, and now I'm going to carry on where I left off, and I actually wanted to jump to, something like this. So here we see we have an example of a question that you have to solve from this that would relate to the L1 section of the textbook and the L1 lecture video that you watched. And let's say we try this question, and well, actually before we even do that, take a look down here. If you look at that and you already aren't sure what to do, even though you would watch the lecture, there's a couple links here to some more video help. There's also sometimes might be a worked example that you can click on and see a similar question with different numbers and how you would work through and solve that. I'm not going to click on those, but those options are there available for you. You also see this message instructor, please do not use that button. I'm happy to answer your questions, but email me, because if you click on this, it will send a message on MyOpenMath, which I will almost certainly not see. So if you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer, but send me an email. Okay, so let's say we do this question and we get it wrong. So let's say we think the answer is 20. We're on purpose going to get this wrong a couple of times, just so you can see what happens. So pink, no, we got it wrong. Now you see there is an option here for get a similar question. Don't take that yet, because you got a couple cracks at this same question. So you try it again and you actually think the answer is 30 maybe now. I think we're going to get it wrong again though. That's my intention anyways. So submit question. No, we're still wrong. Let's try it again. Maybe the answer is 40. This is not how I would recommend trying this question, but I just want you to see what happens when you get the answer wrong a few times. Okay, now we took 3 cracks at the question. We got it wrong all 3 times. Look what's appeared here, a little key symbol, and if you click on that, you see what the correct answer should have been. And also at this point, sometimes a detailed solution will appear down here, a link where you can click and see this actual question worked out step by step. This one doesn't have that. So now you would say, okay, I clearly was confused about something. again, you got these videos here to help. You can go back to the textbook and look at this section and find some similar examples. You could go back to the lecture and watch and try and find when in the lecture they demonstrate something similar. And of course, if you are just totally stumped, even with all of the resources, you've tried the resources that are there and you're still uncertain, then shoot me an email, and we can I can email a reply, or we can set up a video chat and go through some stuff together. Okay, so now that you have gotten this question wrong 3 times, you can see what the right answer could have been. You may have additional help, not on this one, but some additional detailed solution appear. And you can see I can no longer, I'm trying to click in there, I can no longer try this question again. I did my 3 tries. Now you go up to get a similar question, and here we have different numbers but the same style of question, and then you would proceed. Hopefully now you have figured out how to solve this equation and you can get the right answer. If not, again, you can go through that same process. All right, so that's kind of the idea of how you're going to go through the chapter. You're going to go watch the lecture, the video lecture on the unit, or on the section rather, and then try the corresponding questions from the section. Contact me when you have help. Use the videos and the links to help you figure things out. If you go through a section and you're still struggling a bit, there is more practice in the textbook available for you as well. And then when you get to the end of a unit, there is a quiz and a test. And the quiz you can get 2 cracks at, and that is really to make sure you are actually ready for the test. So you work through all the questions, you think you know it, try the chapter quiz, and you might find that certain stuff you do just fine on, but other stuff you run into a problem. And then you can go back, do a little more practice, try the chapter quiz again, and hopefully now you're ready to move on and do that chapter test. When you do your chapter quizzes and tests, show all of your work on paper, and then when you complete them, and this is both the quizzes and the tests, send me an email. So take pictures or scans of all your rough work, email it to me, and what I can do then is, so 2 things on that. Number 1, it's a requirement. I need to have that work from you, or the quiz or test does not qualify to be as completed. And secondly, what it allows me to do is go through and add part marks. So, you did say on a question, all you missed is a negative sign, right? MyOpenMath is going to give you an initial score of 0 on that question. But I'm going to go through and say, oh, look, they know how to do everything. All they did is they missed a negative sign, and I'm going to increase that score, probably quite significantly in that case, to close to full marks. Or maybe, you went through and you just made 1 mistake. Your answer, you got an answer that looks totally wrong, but when I look at your work, I can see you actually did everything right. You just made 1 mistake at some point along the way. So I can give you half marks, or 2/3 or 3/4, depending on the seriousness of that mistake. So often people kind of panic when they first finish a test, and the mark might be a bit lower than they wanted. But remember, I'm going to be going through and adding in part marks. So save your panic until after your part marks are added, and we can see what you actually got. Because a lot of students really know the stuff, but in a test setting especially, it's so easy to make little mistakes, right? And you're not going to, again, MyOpenMath is going to give you 0 on that, but I'm going to add in part marks. When you get to once you've finished all 5 units, there is a final exam. So there's some review there for you to prepare for that, and then a final exam. And this is important. The final exam, if you're doing this course online, the final exam must be done in person, and you must pass the final exam to pass the course. So now that sounds scary, but don't worry. I have never yet had a student who has actually worked through all the material, done all the quizzes and tests and homework and practice and everything, and then come in and failed that final exam. Certainly sometimes people don't do quite as well as they wanted, but it's only a part of your mark, right? But there is a requirement, because of the online nature of the class, there is a requirement that you have that one supervised assessment and that you're able to pass that final exam. Okay, and one last thing here, just to give you a little bit of an idea about the kind of pace you want to be keeping up in order to complete the course within the term, if that's your goal. So this is assuming that you're beginning the course at the start of a term and you want to finish the course by the end of that term. This sort of gives a quick breakdown of each of the courses. So there on the left, we see Math 072. There's those prerequisite skills, which you saw were 11 little sections, but they're all quite small, like a few questions each. You might whip through those in a day. I've put 1 to 3 days there. It might take you a little longer if some of those things are things you need to brush up on first, if they don't come back to you quickly or you haven't learned them before. But we'll estimate 1 to 3 days. And then for the rest of them, I've listed how many sections there are in each unit. Going down the Math 072, the 5 units, and then the same for Math 073. I'll talk a little bit more about, you might notice the last unit of this is the same as the first unit of that. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second, but just for your overall timing, add up all those sections, plus every section has a quiz and a test, and that adds up to, including a few days, 3 days for the prerequisite skills, if it takes you that long, that adds up to about 36, I've called them items, whether that's completing a section, homework, the homework sections, right, is what we're talking about here, essentially, including the lead up to that, like the videos and the textbook as you need. So about 36 items to complete. There's about roughly 100 days in the term. So you want to be finishing one of those items every 2 or 3 days. If you go 2 or 3 weeks and you've only done a couple sections in that time, that will not be a fast enough pace for you to complete the course during the term, right? You need every 2 or 3 days to be completing a section or a quiz or a test as you work through the material. And if you want to look on a sort of a bigger scale, it's about completing one entire unit, including the test at the end of it, every 2 to 3 weeks in order to get the course done in the term and have a few days to prep and study and rate that final exam, set up an appointment to do that. Math 073, very, very similar. You can see 35 items instead of 36, so essentially the same. The one thing we should talk about here, though, is that if you are taking Math 073 by virtue of an assessment, so you took an assessment and they placed you into Math 073, or if you took another course other than 072 that gave you permission to take Math 073, and the big one here would be Math 075. If any of you took Math 075 and are now taking Math 073. If you are in either of those situations, in other words, if you did not take Math 072, you do need to do Unit 1 as part of Math 073 when you were in there. If, on the other hand, you just completed Math 072, that means you just did Chapter P and Chapter F. You don't need to redo Chapter P and Chapter F in Math 073. You can skip that and go straight to Unit 2. So let me just say that again, maybe a little more clearly. If you have taken Camosun Math 072, you can skip Unit 1 and start on Unit 2. If you have not taken Camosun Math 072, if you have the equivalence from an assessment or a different course, you do have to do Unit 1 as your first unit. And other than that, the big thing is, we talked about it at the start a bit, I think, of this video. I've spliced together things from a few different places, so I'm not sure what I've talked about, but it's really the many, many benefits and advantages to the self-paced model. The one place where sometimes students struggle is motivating themselves to keep at it and keep on a pace. So you need to set a pace, and you can kind of use this as a guide. Take your calendar, right? And every 3 weeks, I have to make sure I finished a unit. Mark that on your calendar, right? or your instructor, me or whoever it is, can sit down with you and online or whatever and sort of map that out as well, if that's helpful for you. But you need to structure yourself and discipline yourself to get in every day if possible, every couple days for sure, and work on some math. As soon as you leave it for a few days, it's really hard to get back into it. You leave it for a few days, especially what will happen is, people get stuck on something and they're like, oh, and they're frustrated. They turn off the computer, go do something else, come back a couple days later. Oh, yeah, this thing, I couldn't figure that out. Instead of getting help from the instructor, they turn off the computer again, leave it, come back a week later, 2 weeks later, and now not only are you not sure how to do the thing you were struggling with, but now you've kind of forgotten the stuff that you had learned before that was fine, right? You leave that another few weeks, you leave it a month, you leave it 2 months, and suddenly the term is gone. And it does happen to people, right? So you need to resist that urge to not do anything for 3 or 4 days or a week, and seek help as soon as you can when you get stuck on something. Now, of course, I understand you're all adults, and there are going to be times when you know your kids are sick, or you get called in for extra shifts at work, or you have family visiting from out of town, or whatever it is, right? There's going to be times you get busy and you might have to go a week here and there where you're not able to get anything done, but be very intentional about that. Look at the date that you're going to get back to it and stick with it, and get back to working as soon as you possibly can. So I think that's all for now. If you have any questions, please reach out to check in. Otherwise, get yourself set up on MyOpenMath and read those instructions and start into your first unit. Have a great day.